Suddenly, he's changing. She files her financial declarations. Same.
The subpoena. Ms. Mershon is called her as the next witness.
All right. So that was it. Just the argument. No testimony.
Right. I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued. But since it did, here I am.
Great. So let's just talk about what you did in preparation for today. Did you meet with Mr. Wade? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman. Me, not so much.
Danny, we ain't talk about her in ages because she was laying low in the news, honey. And now we got some breaking news.
And that is our top story for you tonight at 6. The state's highest court has refused to hear an appeal from Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. This decision upholds a lower court's ruling to remove her from the case against President Trump and more than a dozen other defendants. She had accused them of conspiring to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results. And today, President Trump called the ruling a great decision. And he's now demanding that Willis face consequences.
Now, she should be prosecuted. What she did to people, forget about me, what Fani Willis did to innocent people, patriots that love our country, what she did to them by indicting them and destroying them, she should be put in jail. She's a criminal.
Tonight, we have live team coverage. Grace King will have more on the sweeping indictment and long legal battle that brought us here. But we begin this evening with Zach Merchant, live from the state Supreme Court. So, Zach, what does this court decision mean for the future of the case here?
Yeah, that is the big question right now. And it was a big decision that was handed down inside the Georgia Supreme Court earlier today. It was also a close decision. 4-3, a narrow majority. 3 justices dissented, but that 4-justice majority, they carried the day, and their decision ultimately means that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's time leading this case is over, but the case itself may still have a future.
This is the biggest case in the history of American jurisprudence.
Former DeKalb County District Attorney Robert James says the Fulton County prosecution of President Donald Trump and more than a dozen co-defendants has no comparison.
There is no prosecutor that has ever lived that's brought a bigger, more important case.
But now Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, the prosecutor who brought the charges, is off the case. Following the Georgia Supreme Court's ruling allowing her disqualification to stand, she said she'll now prepare to transfer jurisdiction to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, an independent third party tasked with finding a new prosecutor to lead the case. In a written statement, she said in part, quote, "I hope that whoever is assigned to handle the case will have the courage to do what the evidence and the law demand." Prosecuting Attorneys Council Executive Director Pete Scandalakis says he'll look for another DA's office or qualified attorney to take it on, but admits it may be difficult. James said any new prosecutor would have to answer big questions before agreeing.
Do we have the bandwidth for it, the emotional and psychological bandwidth for it? Or is it something that we just rather not be involved with? The second thing is, do we have the resources?
But that does not mean the case is dead. Scandalakis said if he can't find an outside prosecutor to take it on, the Prosecuting Attorneys Council might take the case itself. In a phone interview, he said, quote, "I think it's important that a conflict prosecutor, a neutral person, takes this case and makes a decision." So the big question now, of course, is how long might that take? We asked Pete Scandalakis that today when we talked with him. He said he hopes to have a new prosecutor lined up and ready to take on the case when jurisdiction transfers to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia. How long will that take? He said it could be about 30 days, which would be a very fast development in this case that for the better part of the last 2 years has been moving very slowly. Jennifer?
Yeah, Zach, you're exactly right. This case has been years in the making, and at first it looked as if it would move pretty quickly. A grand jury indicted former President Trump and 18 other defendants in August of 2023, and just weeks later, 4 defendants pleaded guilty. But the momentum stalled. Grace King joining us live now from the Fulton County Courthouse where it all began. Grace, what was the turning point here?
Well, it was
I paused it there. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything.
The turning point is when the people discovered how much crap was involved. See, the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution ratified in 1791, were to prevent what is being done here from occurring. And what has occurred has an interesting modern label. It's called lawfare. In other words, taking the criminal laws and waging warfare upon people who exercise their political prerogatives and rights under the Constitution of the United States and under state constitutions. The prosecution that ensued from this lawfare is blatantly unfair. It's illegal. And it reeks of a lot of underlying criminality that got exposed by the stupidity of a prosecutorial entity getting up there and forgetting that there's a thing called the Fifth Amendment that allowed her to remain silent, which resulted in her incriminating herself. Now, there is a thing called prosecutorial discretion. What's likely to happen is that a prosecutor will be assigned to this case, or the collective body that is established through Georgia law will act as the prosecuting entity, and prosecutorial discretion being theirs would suggest that in the exercise of wisdom and for fundamental fairness, and in the interest of justice, all charges would be dismissed. And that would be the end of it. And Fani Willis and her erstwhile alleged boyfriend, Attorney Wade, are looking at some federal and state criminal offenses for what came out when she stupidly ran her mouth off. I think it's going to go back to Judge McAfee for his approval of a motion to dismiss all charges. The three individuals that pled guilty upon review of their circumstances, it seems that there were some other aspects of the cases that were applying to them that do not exist in the other cases that led them to work out a deal. So I'll just leave it at that. I've done this for a very long time. I don't think there's anybody involved in this that has more experience in doing it than I do. Some with an equal experience, some may be wiser than me, but I don't see them right now. I'm impressed by Judge McAfee, who is very young for the position he holds, but very astute, very hardworking, and he's going to wind up on somebody's Supreme Court, either state or federal, and or somebody's governor's office, or wind up in the U.S. Senate, or maybe even higher. I look forward to seeing what he's going to do with his career. But in any event, it's a real live mess that got started under the Biden-Harris charade. And Hyena Harris didn't win, and everybody was counting on her because they believed the false representation that was being presented by mainstream media in the United States, which is a propaganda device for the far left. And it's not really reflective of the United States.
So I have a question. Jim Jordan, he issued a subpoena for Fani Willis, and
she'll have to comply. The state Supreme Court says she needs to. See, she has to answer to a considerable amount of funding. It's about $10 million that seems to be missing that went through her hands.
Right, because they gave her a deadline to hand over documents, and she never did. Wade went and testified because he was subpoenaed. So with her completely just losing this case, does this open the doors more for the feds, the congressional Jim Jordan, come in and come down on her harder?
Let's talk about the state. The state legislative body has three remedies. One, subpoena her again, and if she refuses to answer, to act directly upon her for contempt of the legislative body, which can result in the sergeant at arms being directed to physically arrest her, handcuff her, and bring her in custody before the legislative body to answer to them. Two, you can get a retaliatory result where the state legislative body retaliates against her district, cuts off funds and such like. Or three, they can go to a circuit court and proceed through the circuit court and have that court issue a contempt finding and have her seized and held to answer for contempt of the court. So they have those,
Trump
1, 2, 3 remedies. That's state. And then the feds haven't really been involved. And I suspect that what's going to happen, as soon as they get these things worked out, the U.S. attorney for that district is going to make some presentations to a federal grand jury, and we might see.
Right, and I'm pretty sure Trump is going to be in the background pushing the state attorney AG or, Jim Jordan.
Oh, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to do that. He can stay clean and distant. He's already spoken his piece. The American public has made its selection as to who they want to be the president of the United States through its board of directors / the electoral college. And I think things will take its course. You've got the Senate, the House, the FBI, the Department of Justice, and a number of entities that are stacked on this other side. And Fani and company were counting on it being the opposite and them being able to violate the Bill of Rights for purposes of persecuting those that differed from them. They're the ones that set up the intolerance when it came to speech and the retaliatory consequences to be vested by the federal government or state governments for those who did not fall in line. It looks like something that might have been engineered by the National Socialist Workers Party, which is known to history as the Nazi Party. And we know what they did.
Okay.